Perfect.
Sorry about that. Okay, so I am here to give the Samvera Community Guidelines Working Group update. So just a bit of background. Back in July of 2020, the Code of Conduct Working Group approached the steering at the time, the board, and got the green light to proceed with a code of conduct and community safety consultants to spend some money and get some help on developing out these things. In December 2020, we had incident response training, a select group of us. And then in March and November of 2021, in that time, the Community Safety Working Group got together and developed an incident response plan, reviewed our code of conduct and anti-harassment policy and made some changes. And we established a safety volunteer process. The final piece of all of this work was to develop our community guidelines. So the working group for that spun up in February of this year. So our consultant, Annalie Flowerhorn, says, community guidelines communicate your community's values and culture to new and existing community members. The reason to create specific guidelines, instead of just saying be excellent to each other or treat each other politely, is that there are a wide range of cultural norms across different communities, even micro communities like open source projects. So that sounds like us. The working group members included myself, Heather, Jessica Hilt from UC San Diego, Alicia Morris from Tufts, Robin Rugeber from University of Virginia, and Beth Sadler from Princeton. A great group. We had some resources to work with going in, including all of the work that had been done by the Community Safety Working Group prior. We looked at existing examples of community guidelines from other technology projects like Mozilla and Puppet. And we also looked and checked out what kind of community guidelines are used in social media land, TikTok, Nextdoor, and Facebook. But most importantly was the resource, a community guidelines guide that had been prepared by Annalie Flowerhorn for us. And I'm just going to call out a few things from that document very briefly, and I'll put a link to them in the chat when I'm done here, because it's a really interesting document and worth checking out if you're interested in thinking about how we talk about how we work together. So in discussing our values, the idea is to avoid generalities. Broad statements are less useful and can easily be interpreted to justify or condemn a wide range of behaviors. So it's important to be specific. It's important to separate reality from aspiration and clearly delineate between what's true of what your community is right now and what values your community is striving to live up to. There are guidelines to avoid, things that seem appropriate at face value, but actually raise some concerns, like assume good intent or bring your whole self or no interruptions. And there are some things she recommended, including clear, simple language, inclusive language, making space for quieter voices, and seeking out and centering marginalized and underrepresented perspectives, which I think a lot of our community safety work does well. So for the group, we took this approach. We decided that our community guidelines would be brief, that they would more likely be read and understood if they were concise and people would read them if they were short. We chose to just focus on 3 areas in the scope of our guidelines. And we wanted to articulate the values and how we work to live by them. And we also decided to be agile in the sense that we wanted to sort of get something out to the community as soon as possible, knowing that we can iterate over this over time. So our first area of focus was to be open and welcoming. So I just pulled out some for our 3 areas of focus, just really brief little excerpts to give you a taste of how we structured this. Samvera strives to be an open and welcoming place for our community. And we do this by, we seek to be open by using clear, simple language. Participation and collaboration. The Samvera community centers on participatory collaboration, and we do this by recognizing that each one of us helps set the tone for how we work and have fun together. And we thought it was important to talk about decisions and communication, like how decisions are made in the community. We know if people want to contribute that transparency about decision making and being open is vital. So we put forth that we strive to make decisions in the best interest of the community as a whole. So our process, we just met twice, if you can believe it. We had discussion, built out an outline, and then from there, Jessica Hilt, thank you, developed our first draft. We made some minor revisions, then shared it with the board and the community, took in some feedback, all of it was positive, and then we went ahead and released the guidelines on April 15th, sunsetting the group after that. So if you have any questions, let me know. I see I went over a little bit, so feel free to post them in Slack.
Thanks, Hannah. Thanks so much for all your work on that. I think we have best-in-class community guidelines and code of conduct, and that's no small amount of work went into that.
Thanks.
So I just have a very short update before we have another break. And my update is for a pretty new working group. I believe we've only met once, the Website Migration Working Group. So the Website Migration Working Group was formed by the Marketing Working Group as a subgroup to take on the task of moving the samvera.org website from its current state as a hosted WordPress site and making it a static site on GitHub pages. And this move is going to allow for easier website management because changes can be made via a pull request in the Samvera GitHub repository. And it's going to reduce Samvera's operating costs slightly by eliminating the hosting and WordPress security costs. So this is a migration rather than a redesign. But as part of this move, the group is going to review and refine the website design in consultation with the marketing working group. And the goal is just going to be to streamline some of the content and look at places where we would like to send users to the wiki for more detailed information. And this group is also going to document the ongoing maintenance needs of the website so that we can stay on top of that. So our goal is to complete this work by September of 2022, which is ahead of Samvera Connect in October. So that's the latest there. I've got 10 to the hour,